Author Nation, welcome to another episode of the State of the Nation podcast. Lulu, have you heard of it? Well, today Joe's sitting down with Sarah Gilbert to talk about Lulu and how it can help you sell more books. So you definitely don't want to miss this one. Stay tuned.
Hey, it's Joe Solari from Author Nation, and today we're at Lulu World Headquarters with Sarah Gilbert. How are you?
Ooh, I'm great.
Yeah. So we've actually on the podcast, you may have seen this room before behind Matt when we did our earlier episodes. Now I'm actually here in the igloo.
That's right.
So, Sarah, tell us a little bit about you and what you do at Lulu, and then we'll kind of get into the bigger, broader topics of ways that authors can use your company to sell books.
Sure thing. So I've been at Lulu since about 2009, or in publishing since 2009 rather, and have worn many hats here. Right now, I'm the manager of public relations. So I help educate people on what Lulu is, how to use us, tell our brand story. It's kind of an interesting one. We've been around for about 22 years. My background is in sales and marketing, but then I also spent 5 years as a book publicist, repping books from indie authors, hybrid authors, and traditionally published authors.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that for a second. I mean, being 2009 till 2024 and seeing all the changes and now working at a company that's very different than traditional publishing. What's kind of some of your observations of things that you've seen that have changed for good, bad, and different?
Yeah. So everything has ebbed and flowed and, basically on track with the way technology has worked. So when I first started, ebooks were just kind of coming around at that point, and e-readers. And everything was dictated by the device that you had, whether you had the Nook or the Kindle or whatever it was. That was kind of driving where everybody wanted to publish their books and the platforms they wanted to be on. So when things became more device agnostic, then, everything kind of came back to, how you want to distribute your book, where you want to distribute your book, the channels in which you want to sell. And also when I started, self-publishing still kind of had a little bit of a stigma that I think is gone at this point. So things have changed, but what it always comes back to is good content. So one thing that hasn't changed is no matter how you publish and where you publish, good content is still going to be good content. So if you're writing good stories, if you're paying attention to your craft and, really hunkering down on that kind of thing, you'll find success.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then, from the publicist kind of side of things, I know there was a time where that was marketing. That was book marketing.
Yeah.
How much of that is still relevant from your perspective now?
Yeah, a lot of it's very relevant. So when I publicized a book, I worked directly with media contacts for print media, radio media, television, helped authors craft byline articles. And again, this is across fiction, nonfiction. I represented some books that were strictly artistic books. So it's very different for fiction and nonfiction. Nonfiction seems to have a lot of longevity with marketing. So for instance, if you have a book that is relevant to a topic that's, popping up in the news cycles or whatever, there's a long lead time for being able to resurface your expertise as the author of that book.
Yeah.
Fiction's a little bit different because fiction is going to be reliant on reviews. It's that social proof that you want to really get for people telling what they got out of your book. Maybe it was an emotional read, or maybe it was something that, made them think about a particular topic. But fiction's very different because you're relying on everybody's reviews around that topic.
For somebody that'd be listening to this, that's kind of thinking about publicity, then maybe, is there a way that they could DIY some of that stuff? Or?
Yeah, absolutely you can. I think the hardest thing is a lot of media contacts, they probably would want to see contact come from somebody other than the author. So whether that be their publisher or their publicist or their marketing director, it lends a little bit of credibility when somebody in the media sees that you have somebody besides yourself working to do it. But there is a lot you can DIY. And what was really interesting now is using AI to craft some marketing pitches, press releases, helping you understand what are the selling points about your book.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of glad I wasn't in the publicity part of representing books before when AI was around, because I'm wondering how many of my colleagues lean on that. It's kind of interesting to, just put a prompt in that you want a press release and it spits it out. And when I used to spend a half a day writing that.
Yeah.
So it's different for sure. But you can DIY certain aspects of it. But the rules of engagement are things that I find that a lot of authors don't understand about it. For instance, the New York Times is not going to review your book if you send it to them the week that it's coming out. They want to see it 6 months ahead of time. And a lot of times they won't even consider it unless it comes from a publisher or somebody who already has a platform. They get so many submissions. And so a lot of people are hung up on these very traditional sources of having books, covered. But it really, I think those are the ones that you can put to the side and focus on other things that might be specifically for your niche, your genre, your topic or whatever, that might work better for you.
Well, you made me think about, as if you're writing nonfiction and you're a subject matter expert, you've got this opportunity to, maybe you've got your another email that goes out as your publicist that you could create.
True. True.
And like you say, put together that package so it does feel like that, because, if you're trying to find sources for an on-topic thing, you're probably not going to be doing a lot of due diligence on, like, is this the publicist
Yeah.
Right. So you have an opportunity maybe to get into some places, and as long as you're a credible source, right? They can use that information to build into however they're thinking about you as citing your book or interviewing you or whatever you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of opportunity with like timely events, news tie-ins. Just an example, I represented an author once who was a subject matter expert on the Electoral College. And so, there have been, I think at the time, 5 elections where the Electoral College and the popular vote didn't match up. Well, that happened in 2016. His book was 5 years old at that point. We reached out to major media and he had an interview on MSNBC. So, it's a matter of connecting those dots and taking whatever your subject matter is and paying attention to that. Where I do find a lot of success for fiction authors in this specifically is for authors who write historical fiction, because if they can get to the locales where the book takes place, maybe there's a commemorative day if it's around, a wartime memorial or something like that. There's a lot of opportunity there for them to insert themselves in kind of a non-fiction-y way because it revolved around something that was true.
Yeah, leaning in all the research that they've done. And yeah. No, that's cool. That's a really cool idea. And I know, like, the experiences I've had with mass media, that when you do finally get that exposure, it's not a lot of time, right?
No.
Like, especially if it's something like TV or radio, it's like you get 20 seconds, right?
Yeah, that's generous. That's absolutely. And you know what? You may get 2 minutes and they may only show 30 seconds.
Right. And not the 30 seconds you wanted.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. So let's kind of get back to Lulu. And I know you guys have made some recent announcements about some new products, but even before we get into that, I think generally speaking, people don't have a good feel for all the optionality with Lulu in how they can get something to market and what markets they can get to through your platform.
Yeah. So Lulu's been around, like I said, for more than 20 years, and we started basically the first on the scene for self-publishing. And at the time, it was get your book published through Lulu and get it up on Amazon as a retail channel. So now the choices that an author makes are pretty big. So at Lulu, you upload your book, and then from there, you've got a lot of choices you can make. So there's one, you can just print your book if you want to. You don't have to sell it anywhere. So you can print as few or as many as you want. For those who are listening who aren't familiar with print on demand, that's how print on demand works. You don't have to carry any inventory. So the other thing about that is you can sell it on the Lulu bookstore. We actually have a bookstore where you can sell your book. And from there, the royalty split is 80-20. The author keeps 80% and Lulu keeps 20% of everything that's sold, and that's sold on the Lulu platform. So Lulu collects all the money. We collect the taxes. We do all the business keeping side of that. There's also retail distribution, which I talked about Amazon before. But so if you publish a book on Lulu and your book fits within the general specifications of books that are sold through retail channels, then you can request for your book to also be distributed through these retail channels. Your book is assigned an ISBN, and off it goes. And then whenever it's sold through a retail site, that sale comes back. The money comes back to Lulu, and we pay you royalties through your Lulu account at that point. And then the newest ways for selling, and a lot of people have heard of.
Well, before we go there, just so we get into this distribution thing, because I think this is something, especially for people that are new to publishing, it can get a little scammy.
Yeah.
So, so I'm familiar with this. As far as distribution wise, the other platform people will throw out a lot is Ingram Spark.
Yep.
How, as far as where you distribute and where they distribute, is it similar, the same, different? Like,
it's the same. So, like you said, Joe, a lot of sources, they have a name for their distribution, whether it's, they call it retail. Ours is called global distribution. It's just the name we coined for it. Everybody basically uses the same exact channel to get the books out there. So there are some caveats, but typically it's the same distribution channel that any other self-publishing platform offers. So it's pretty indistinguishable at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So, when somebody's out there and they're thinking about, I'm going to write this great book and I want to get it into all these bookstores, and they see somebody that says, well, I can get you distribution to all these stores. You can do the same thing.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean these stores are going to buy your book.
Right. It just means it's available for stores to buy your book. Bookstores, especially the smaller ones on a local level, they determine which books they want to carry. And unless there's a reason for them to have your book, then they typically won't carry it there. Mm-hmm. So, with print on demand, returnability can also be an issue, because bookstores, if they don't sell books, they want to be able to return them. So their bookstores in general are typically not keen on carrying independently published books. So, the thing about that is that's not really where a lot of books are purchased. We all love bookstores, the smells, the whole experience, but most people buy books online.
Well, I also know of some examples of folks that have on platforms where they go into stores and they can choose to have where they take returns, where financially they get hurt because I had all these great sales, and what they don't realize is the store just brought in a bunch of inventory.
Yeah.
And then when it doesn't sell, they send it back.
Right.
And then they get dinged for all those returns.
Yeah, that money probably already was spent, I'm guessing. So
a lot of times, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. That can be a little bit of a murky situation for sure.
Yeah. So, and I bring that up because I know some folks that are watching this are early stage authors, and there can be, some folks out there that are dangling that carrot out there. Like, I'm going to get you in these stores, and they're going to get you into a distribution channel, but unless there's demand, those stores aren't going to be looking to buy your book, right? It's not like when, like in traditional publishing where there's agreements on how many books are going to be bought, and there's people, they actually have a sales force selling into those stores, and, that's not what you're getting.
No, it's not. And if you I do see authors who have more success with, rather than trying to get into a store and have that store carry their book for, months, years, or however long they think is going to be the best option, having an event at a store where you bring the inventory, maybe you just paid the cost to print the books, and you've arranged with the store that they can receive a certain amount from the sales. Like, there's a lot of things that you can do to kind of work around that are event based, that authors will have more success with.
Sure. So let's get back to the other stuff, stuff that we know works and is working better and better every day.
Yeah. So the most exciting thing about what Lulu is doing right now revolves around allowing authors to sell direct. So there's direct sales where the author can sell books from their website. We've had an API around for quite a while. An API really is just a back end way for somebody to connect their website to our print network. Usually you have to have some kind of developer smarts to implement something like that, but it's kind of the OG way of selling direct. So anybody who has worked with the API and used it, what happens is your reader goes to your website, they buy the book, they check out, they pay you, you're the business here. And then that print job comes to Lulu, we print it and ship it on your behalf. So from there, you're collecting the money, but nobody is getting in their car going to the post office. You're not assembling anything to be mailed. It happens automatically, and we have custom shipping inserts that we can put in the package straight from our printer that's branded to you. Maybe it's, a coupon for their next book or a thank you note. So there are things that you can do also to kind of nurture that relationship along with your readers.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. And the best part about it is you get to know who your readers are. So that's the gold and understanding the data behind who's buying your book. So because the API was successful for people who had developer skills, within the last 5 to 10 years, Lulu decided we wanted to do the same thing for people who didn't have developer skills. So we rolled out a Shopify app, also a connection with WooCommerce for WordPress, and then recently we launched a connection with Wix. So anybody who has a website supported by either of any of those 3 platforms, they can essentially have the same setup, just working through tools that are already built into those platforms. And it doesn't mean you can't sell your book through distribution channels or through the Lulu bookstore or print or have events. It's just another way to sell books that's going to help you establish your community, build your readership, build your newsletter following. It's going to take that rented land versus owned land component where, you're building your empire on something that you own and control. So for authors, it's a process. I get it. Sometimes it's hard to start with just one book and do that, but we've seen a lot of people be very successful doing it.
Sure. I think, with the whole idea of, what I call digital homesteading, it's nice to think about the Instagram version of homesteading that we see, but you don't think about the fact that somebody had to scrape the bark off the logs to make the log cabin. And it's the same thing digitally. Like, you're going to have to do work to have that level of ownership and authenticity in, what that site is. But I do know from what I've observed is, while it may be counterintuitive to a lot of digital marketing stuff that you hear about, like, oh, don't have a lot of clicks. If you are bringing somebody to your site and then giving them the ability to decide, well, do you want to buy it from me direct, or it is also on Barnes & Noble, or it is in the Lulu bookstore, or it is on Amazon. You go decide like what's best for you, customer, where you want to buy things. What you end up seeing is, as you market and grow your business, it pulls through sales on all those platforms, because people will be like, oh, I want that book, but I'll pick it up when I go to Barnes & Noble, or I buy everything in Amazon. Sorry. But let them do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're saying let them pick the platform that they want to use.
Yeah. I've observed it in people that I've worked with, is when they really get focused on, all of their marketing is going to the website, and their hope is that they're going to have that direct sale. Mm-hmm. But there's people I've known, because I've looked at the data, they haven't even clicked on your ad. They see the book and they're like, ooh, I like that. And they just go to Amazon, because that's where they buy books, and they copy whatever it was and they paste it in the search bar and they go buy your book. And you'll see a correlation on your Amazon sales to, your marketing on your direct store. The difference is that, every book that you sold direct is equal to 2 to 5 books on Amazon.
Right.
From what you make profit-wise.
Right. And one of the things that we're doing is we're trying to help authors educate their audience on the benefits of buying direct, because I really do think it's up to the buyer as to where they want to buy the book. However, you've probably seen this a lot with authors you work with, is they have these very, very loyal readers, and these loyal readers, sometimes for them, the relationship that they have with the author, whether it's just, reading their content, following them on social media, or maybe it's interacting with them through social media or email or newsletter, or whatever, it becomes something that they're very proud of. Like, well, they'll buy merch, they'll do all these things to feel connected to that author. And so what we're doing now is telling authors, here's what you need to be telling your readers is say, here are some of the benefits of buying direct. You're going to support me more. I'm going to earn more on this. Also, I am controlling where this and how this book is printed. I can help, shepherd this process along for you. And they're doing this through offering some specialized author versions or something with special author notes in them, discount codes, box sets, the fun kind of things that make people feel close to their readers.
Well, I think it's a massive trend that some authors are really taking advantage of. I've said this before in the podcast where certain authors, if you went to them and where they were really concerned about their audience aging and what was going to be happening to the demographics of their audience, they never would have perceived there would be a time where younger people would be buying physical books. Right. And then coming to a live event to buy physical books and looking for special physical books. Right. But that's, somebody my age that used to be, everything was a physical product, right? Even if it was music, you'd had an album or you had a cassette. Yeah. I think this is kind of a reaction to a generation that has grown up on subscriptions and they're sick of it. They're sick of not seeing ownership, and this is a way for them to have it.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And there's also like some pride in the authenticity of the ownership. Yeah. It's like, look at this thing, like record players kind of made a comeback with young group. I was in the Cleveland airport a couple weeks ago and there's a store there that sells records. I was like, okay, that's something I never thought I'd seen at an airport. Of course, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, whatever. But I was like, okay, that's really interesting that they're selling records. This must be something that, having a tangible product is valuable to people for sure.
Yeah. And I think that's, certainly if you lean into that because it fits with your brand, then it becomes like you were starting out with this, is that it's part of that customer relationship. It's that they get that ownership, whether it's coming to a show and seeing you and getting that book signed by you, or it's a special edition that they can only get on a platform like Kickstarter at a certain time. There's so many different ways now because of what you guys can do with your technology that you're not going to end up with a garage full of books.
No, we don't want anybody to have the garage full of books. We've seen some pictures. We've seen the pictures after the flood hit. It's good stuff. But yeah, no, in a kind of a full circle moment to getting back to publicity, a lot of times for books where we didn't really know what that exact point was for publicizing a book, we go to the backstory of the author, because really that's where readers feel connected, is that they understand why the author wrote the book. Also, is there something that has to do with their past? So that connection that they felt to the person writing the book was always the most important thing. So, when you have like a collection of books on a bookshelf and some of them may be signed by your favorite author, that's a big deal for people. Yeah. That's like, those are things that they move from home to home. It's a thing.
Yeah, for sure. It's the whole, I've used this analogy before. That's the concert t-shirt, right? Like why do we spend that kind of money on a shirt that costs them like $5?
Totally.
Right. You want to show that you're a fan. You want to show other fans that you're part of this tribe. Right. And if it gets really specific, it's like, oh, I know by that shirt, like I was at that show, like we have that common experience. Maybe
the armpits are a little yellow. Yeah, you were at the show in the 80s.
Yeah, it doesn't quite fit.
That's right.
A little threadbare. Yeah.
But you're still wearing it.
Yeah. Right. Because it's all about status too, right? It's not only do I belong, but I knew about these guys before you did.
That's right. Yeah, I see my fellow Gen Xer here across the podcast.
I'll give it's a great one. I've yet to see the Pixies. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Because every time they come around, they break up just before.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So we've got tickets for August in Chicago. We'll see if they make it through that show. But like, there's literally twice before, like they like broke
funny.
up before.
It's not funny, but I'll pray that they stay together for you.
But I'm going to basically to see them be a cover band of the Pixies, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's funny.
So before we kind of get wrapped up here, we touched on some of these things. Let's talk about, the stuff that you can do with things like Kickstarter. And then I know you've just released some new features that I don't even fully know about that I'd love to hear about.
Yeah. So with Kickstarter or really any kind of crowdsourcing platform that an author's use, maybe it's like a subscription model or something like that, we have a tool in our system called the Order Import tool. Not the sexiest name, and a lot of people don't know about it until they get into Lulu, because it's really just a function of being able to distribute books by drop shipping to multiple addresses. So this may be like you have a list of several hundred people who you've promised your pre-release to. Okay, well, it's now in the release phase. What am I going to do? I'm going to take that spreadsheet of everybody who ordered the book or subscribed or was involved in the crowdsourced campaign, and I'm going to drop it into the Lulu system associated with the book. The addresses are validated, and then off the books go. They all are individually printed and shipped to the person who is the recipient. I know a lot of authors who use this like clockwork for pre-releases. They have their timing down pat that they'll send them out, maybe a few days before the release happens, and so they land on front porches on that exact release day. So it's a function by where you can get books that maybe you've already sold and distributed out, and we're seeing a lot of success and popularity with it. Not only are fiction authors using it, we have a lot of content entrepreneurs using it for distributing course materials for courses they have coming up, training materials, lots of journals that come out. Schools use it for books that are coming. So it's a way that you can take that no inventory model to the next level.
Yeah, I've seen some folks where like if they may have all the course material in their course, right? Like the PDFs are there, all that, but they have like an upsell where it's, hey, you want this in a spiral bound deal where they could do that through you guys. And this tool sounds like something that would make it easy for you to deal. Like, okay, I've got this cohort that's going through my course right now. Here they are, send it out to these guys. We're starting on July 1st.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And you mentioned Coil, and that's something that Lulu does. That's a real popular product, and not a lot of other print-on-demand publishers do. So Coil, like for lay flat books, anything that's you want to write in as a journal, course materials. We have a lot of cookbooks published that way, so they can just lay flat on a kitchen counter. It's a real popular product we have.
Cool.
Yeah. So that, and then we also launched Variants, which allows an author to have a book posted on their website for sale in different formats at the same time. So rather than having different formats of the same book on different product pages, it pulls that all into one thing.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah, that's something that a lot of people ask for in their stores. So yeah, and we, the next steps for Lulu is really just to keep innovating and keeping up and staying ahead of where authors want to go with this.
Awesome. Yeah. I love, how much time you guys spend out in the community listening, right? I know that you can't do everything that everyone says, but, that some of this stuff has come from your participation in the community and hearing what we're looking for, and trying to stay as nimble as indie authors are is, I know, kind of tough, but you guys are doing a pretty good job.
Thanks. Yep. We're trying to take a outside in approach to that. Look at what's on the outside and bring it in, rather than trying to figure out all the problems the world has from the inside and then putting them out there. So.
Well, Sarah, it's been awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Yep. You're having me. We're in your studio.
Okay.
Thanks for hosting the Author Nation. Yeah.
You're welcome. And we will see you at Author Nation this fall in Vegas.
Yeah.
So stoked about that, and probably run into you a few times before then too.
Well, for the folks that we were just in the boardroom talking about some of the cool stuff we've got planned that we'll be announcing soon, and we're really excited about it. And thank you for being such a huge sponsor and helping us to be able to pull all this stuff off, because it's not just that you've donated to the show to do this, but that you're coming with technology and some pretty exciting stuff we've got to announce soon.
Yeah, we're stoked about that too.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, thanks a lot, and we'll be talking.
All right. Thanks. Bye.